Alright guys, my name's Captain Jeremy Hines, Day Charters. I am a big time tournament guy. I'll probably fish more tournaments than anybody in here. Besides Travis Fish, he took a little break this year, so I'll beat him on that. But we do fish a lot of tournaments and fish all over the place. I'm not just a captain that's going to be locked into one area. One day I could be a Chaz, the next day I can be in Sarasota, the next day I'll be a Cockroach. I fish all over the place. There is certain times during the year that I try and stay in certain locations where I know the fish is going to be good. But there is no place that you're going to be able to go, okay, well, you don't know this. I've been there. I've been in every creek. I've fished every branch. I've been there. So if you have any questions about any places, go, hey, I fish Terracea. Tell me a place in there that I can go to, or something. Give me a scenario that you've been into as I'm talking, okay? Once again, my name's Captain Jeremy Hines. I do all shallow water stuff. I fish them exactly like Ken does, right? I like the shallow water. Higher water, it's just the fish spread out like he's talking about, and it makes it a little harder to catch. Lower water, all the fish come together. So that makes it a lot easier for artificial guys to catch more fish in more numbers, right? Now you can catch plenty of fish on high water too, but it's kind of like everybody talking about their colored jig heads. The colored jig head means absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. You don't have to match the color with your bait. All that is like confidence in yourself, okay? Everything I'm going to tell you is going to be like what it actually needs to be just to catch a fish, not somebody else's confidence bait, okay? I have my own confidence baits, but I also use everybody else's product compared to what I'm showing you here. Like he's talking about Miridine and so on. It depends on sponsors and that kind of stuff and what you're allowed to throw or how you want to do it. But I try and throw what it takes to catch a fish if I can see them. Because if I can see them, they're in trouble. I will figure them out and I will sit on them until I do catch them. So first thing is we'll go over like the shallow water pond fishing, like what Kent was, like he was just talking about, right? So how many of you actually got the concept of what he's talking about of fishing shallow water and fishing the holes and looking for the edges? You know what he's talking about? He said he takes his boat and he runs it to the ground and then he turns and fishes. Just like he said, that's an edge, right? Well, here's the thing. There is fish in deep. You can catch redfish in deep docks. You can catch snapper and everything on deep docks. But it's where we like to fish at compared to where other guys. There's guys that beat us every once in a while that fish docks. It can happen. But more often than not, people that are fishing the potholes and learning how to fish off the bank, out and wide open, fishing them ditches and the troughs or sandbar. Because just a sandbar out in the middle of nowhere, any fish that are passing by are going to stop by and get on that sandbar to eat, right? So it's the same thing as a pothole. When the tide goes out, all them fish fall in a pothole. And what happens is, they ain't got nowhere to go. There's places that I run my boat runs in 3 inches of water. I can run in 3 inches of water. I will literally pond jump from pond to pond and never be, I might get nervous every once in a while, but if I can land in a pond, I can get back out of it. And that's a lot how I like to fish. And I can take 4 people on my boat and do artificial during the winter time and guarantee you I'm going to catch fish. But it has to be set up right, and it needs to be low water to where I can do what I want to. If it's high water, it can definitely be a lot tougher. Because you're going to take, say if there's 50 redfish in an acre area, tide goes out, they're all in one area. When the tide comes back up, they all spread out. That's like trying to find, a ripe apple on a green apple tree. I mean, it's hard. They're all scattered out. Now, one thing that I want to talk about, like fishing potholes and everything, you can throw, some people like topwater plugs, some people like the rib and slash or Miridines or hard baits. They are not necessarily a bait you want to fishing potholes or drop offs where the fish are sitting on the bottom. 90% of the time you want to be throwing a jig with a jig head, okay? If there is some grass or something down there, then you can switch to what I like. This is an edge hook. Captain Joe Fishing, Fish on Lures, makes this one right here actually. And this is a bigger one. I do throw a smaller one, a couple different sizes. Color means absolutely nothing on a jig head or anything, or on this right here. You can have a confidence, like Kent was saying, a green jig head with white or a green with gold. I've had my success with that. But most of the time, I try and buy all my stuff unpainted. The reason I have some color ones in here is because like what they brought me in leftover or something like that. Most of the time, I get all my stuff unpainted. That way, when I'm on a boat and I have 4 guys on a boat, and I have one guy, well, I want a green jig head. I want a pink one. Well, you're going to get all unpainted. Because it doesn't matter. They're looking at the body of the bait, okay? Or the profile is another thing to really go off of. I heard Travis talk about that earlier. here's the thing. We fished a tournament 2 weeks ago. It was blowing 40-mile-an-hour winds, blowing. Raining, disgusting, cold front. Worst thing you could ever imagine. The only people that were on the water that day were the guys that were fishing the Florida Pro. That was it. There was no recreational people out there, right? So you got this weather, and you have low water. It's actually a medium at Fort DeSoto. We were at Fort DeSoto, okay? And I'll even show you where I even caught the fish at if it's on here. Now, when you're at Fort DeSoto, you have a north wind, right? It's going to blow some of the water out, so it's not going to get as high as it normally does. So it didn't get low. It wasn't low in the morning time. I needed low water in these potholes. There was 8 fish in this one, 8 in that one, 8 in that one, and they were money fish. And I knew if I caught one of them, that I have a good shot to go get an upgrade somewhere else. Well, I got there in the morning. I'm thinking cold front, normal thing, you know, downsized baits. During the winter time, normally you want to downsize baits, and that's usually what you want to do to get your numbers up and to catch plenty of fish. Well, I went there in the morning. I had high hopes. As soon as we took off, everybody's taking off in front of me, so we matted and we get to the first hole, and I was like, there's nobody here. I'm fixing to win this tournament. And I pull in there, I start casting, and I'll show you the bait that I started out with first real quick. Now, I had 2 different styles. I only had a couple holes in front of me, right? Once you find out where they're at, you don't want to burn across them and fish real fast. So what I do is pull up in the middle of them, and you want to cast each one. And then you cast this one over here, and then you cast that one. And what happened is, after about probably about third or fourth cast, I finally got them dialed in. Where, like Kit was talking earlier, you can have a pothole in front of you, right? You can say it's round. Well, it's not always perfectly round. There's always some little finger off of it or an indentation in it. 90% of the time, the fish is going to be sitting right there. You still want to cast around the whole sand hole or pond that you're in. But when I'm fishing, if I'm going down a bank or fishing these potholes, I'll pull it there. Like, I watch so many guys go across the pothole, they throw one time in this one, and they keep on going on trolling motor. I'll come right behind them guys, and I'll power pull down, and I'll throw 5 times in that hole, and I'll catch 3 redfish. Every hole behind these guys. And I've done it a lot of times in tournaments where I'm fishing the same hole. There's guys 50 yards away from me, and they're throwing into the same hole that I'm throwing into, but you have to use your brain when it comes to fish that are like that. That has something to do with changing your size of the bait. Now, this is rigged up on a cork from yesterday. This little SS minnow right here is what I still use a lot. It's a very small bait, right? When I first seen this one, when Captain Joe, she knows Captain Joe, came up to me with this, I said, that thing's so small, what are you going to do, catch a bunch of pinfish all day? Well, if you want to learn the products that we're talking about, you need to go buy one. You want to take all your other stuff out of your boat and go use this one for a week. For how many ever days you can go, for 3 or 4 days that you go and you throw one bait and you use it over here, you use it over there, you fish deep, you fish shallow, and you learn how to use it. Then you take that one, you put that down, and you get another one, and you go learn it. That's what I do. If I get a new product, I'm going to take everything out of my boat and I'm going to go fish that one until I learn how to use this bait to the fullest. I can take any bait that you have, that you like, and take it somewhere and go 100% catch fish in my area, because I already know how to work 99% of baits on the market, because I spend a lot of time using them. Now this thing here, it is so small, it costs like $10,000 for us to change the mold on this thing, okay? So there is a little secret that I like to do, you know, that normal people wouldn't do, and I'll show you. This is my box this is one of the boxes that I take, okay? I take all my colors and I put in here. This is something that I can lay out and keep out, and it's real quick. If I got 4 people on my boat, I want to be able to reach down and get a bait real quick. Now, I don't have these ones cut yet in there, but with these baits, I like to cut the top of them off. What this does, it just makes it swim a little bit better than what it actually makes out of the mold. And when you got like fishing in clear water and they're really hard to catch, like I got clients right now that buy these things by hundreds. I buy these 1,500 at a time from my sponsor, or from my captain, Captain Joe Fishing. But what that does, it makes a lot more action in the bait. If the water's clear and the fish are spooky, that right there, just doing that little bit will make a huge difference in getting 2 or 3 more bites throughout, more than 2 or 3 bites throughout the day. I got some of my clients, they don't even cut them. They still catch fish standing right next to me. Like if you go on a charter with me and it's an artificial trip, I'm going to stand right next to you and I'm going to fish right next to you, is what I'm going to do. A lot of guys ain't going to fish, they ain't going to pick up a rod and ain't going to do that. But if you're not catching nothing, and I know the fish are there, I'm gonna pick up the rod and I'm gonna show you that they're there. I'm not gonna just stand there and be like, oh well, you just didn't catch them. And I'm gonna show you and I'll teach you what I'm doing different compared to what y'all are doing. You know what I'm saying? I like to do like a teaching charter is what I like to do, and artificial is it's what gets me pumped up if you can't tell. Okay? So here's the thing. Everybody has different colors, different sizes, quarter ounce, eighth ounce, whatever. Here's the thing. If I'm a charter captain, I have 4 people on my boat. Not every one of you are going to work a bait the same. Okay? That's where we came. You don't find very many 3/16 ounce jig heads. If you have a guy that works a bait slower or faster and he's throwing an 8th ounce than a guy throwing next to him, I can change that by changing the weight of the jig head. If I want the bait, if he's not working the bait the way that I want him to, I'll just change the jig head. And that'll keep the bait either higher up off the bottom or down on the bottom, whatever it takes to make that happen. And that only comes with experience and learning what I need to do and like, if I pull you into a spot and I can tell you to go throw right there, and if I can take a 10-year-old kid and go, okay, you take an artificial bait. How many captains are going to take a 10-year-old kid and go, okay, well you throw right there and you throw this little bait and you're going to catch a 24-inch redfish? How many you know that can do that? Not many. And it's going to be the reason I like to get the kids into it, because that's what gets them excited. Kids don't want to stand there with a bait and watch a shrimp wheel. Dude, my kids, I have kids. I got one kid, he's only throwing reel. I can't even hardly get him to stop and slow down. It's just steady reel. So it has to be like a swim bait or something like this that he can just throw and reel. But the thing is, 3/16 ounce jig head makes a huge difference. It's not going to go to the bottom too fast, and it's not going to be too light. It's going to hit the bottom, kind of flutter and float. One thing you could do is, if you like throwing quarter ounce jig heads and you didn't want to change size or whatever, you go with the edge hook, and you can rig the minnow on the edge hook, and it would do the same thing as changing your jig head to a 3/16 ounce. This just makes it fall down. Some people have the mindset of thinking that way, right? Anyhow, when I rig all my soft plastics, especially these paddle tails, you always want to make sure to point them down. I guess some people put them upside down, they don't swim as good. And that'd be the same thing as throwing this bait without cutting the top. Okay, so I come out before that front rib, and that's how I throw that. This right here has probably won me more money than half the baits that I've thrown.
What do you think about that term called the flutter?
The flutter? Flutter hook?
With paddle tails. And
right.
That's what I always tell my clients. I say, you got to make it flutter.
Gotta make it flutter.
And that paddle tail, that's, I mean, not really a paddle tail, but the way those baits swim, it makes a big difference with its vibration.
Because even if you drop it and they ain't paying attention, the fish will hit it on the way down.
Exactly.
That's the whole. You got to get baits that are going to stay in front of a fish's face as long as possible. You know, like Kim was talking about a gold spoon earlier. Now you have certain areas that you can fish with a gold spoon. Okay. Now this is not going to be so much your pothole scenario. You're not going to throw a gold spoon. It's the same thing as throwing like a topwater plug or something like that across the sand hole. It's just not something you're going to throw into it that works all the time. A jig is going to be better. Okay, so when I throw a gold spoon, I'm going to be around the mullet he's talking about, and I'm going to be usually in anywhere from a foot to 3 feet. That's when I'm going to be throwing a gold spoon. And this, normally that's more like I do it as like a spring or a summertime pattern. Like when you get down to Sarasota and you get on these big flats down there, and you have the schools of redfish out there, and they're money fish. They're either money or over, 90% of the time. That's what a lot of them guys catch some fish on, is a gold spoon. But they're fishing a foot to 3 feet, and most of the time it's going to be over grass with mullet, and all that is a reaction bait. So it's either that or they throw like a sabile. That's what a lot of guys down there, team mullets, they're sabile guys. They do a good job of beating everybody if the fish get in that scenario to where they can cover the water and catch them on sabile. Here's one thing, throwing that gold spoon. How many times y'all throw a gold spoon and watch a redfish or a fish come up behind it and then just turn away at the boat? A lot. It happens a lot with a gold spoon. Just like Kent was talking about, when you're fishing a gold spoon, you got to learn how to control yourself and slow down on your hook set. One way to get rid of that is to downsize your rod or use an extra long leader. Or you could go straight mono, because that's going to allow you, when the fish bites it, to give it that extra second to hold on to it. So when I'm throwing a gold spoon, I usually only throw a 3/6, like a 3/4 ounce, the big Johnson Sprite gold spoons. That's what I throw. You can throw, I think I got a Captain's mites in here. Even as a 3/8 ounce, that thing is very light. I don't like them if I'm throwing and fishing 3 feet of water. Okay, if you're fishing shallow water, 2 to 1 foot, 6 inches of water, then I like to throw Captain's mites. spoon just because it stays higher in the water column and more towards the top of the water. But when I'm out there, and usually when I'm throwing a spoon, I'm ripping it. There is no slacking. I will burn you down to a nub when I'm doing my spoon fishing. Because I'm covering water, fan casting 10 times over the same exact spot to get the fish to reaction bite it. Now here's the thing, whenever the fish will not commit to the spoon, okay, if there's one thing, there's two things you can do. One thing is that makes me a lot of money in tournaments is Procure. If you do not have this on your boat, you're not catching half as many fish. I put this on every bait, hard lures, soft plastics, everything. If you have electrical problems, put it on there. It works on everything. Procure is awesome. If you don't have, it's the same thing as having a power pole. If you don't have a power pole on your boat, buy one because you don't know what you're missing. Another thing is when you see that school of redfish, how many of y'all actually see a school? Have y'all ever seen a school of redfish? How many of y'all seen schools of redfish? A lot of y'all. That's surprising. You normally, a lot of people don't say they've seen it. Well, then I know I got to back up. But if you haven't seen a school of redfish, it's something that you'll never forget because you're either you're screwing off and you're going down the bank and all of a sudden it's like whoa, and they're all up on top of you, or you're going down the bank and you come around the corner and there's like 150 to 200. When you see that, if you take the time and just back up, don't be like, oh man, and start throwing. You don't want to. You don't want to. You might catch one or two, or how many other guys you got on a boat and catch 2 or 3 real quick, but then you're gonna blow them out. Best thing to do is just power pull down or stop and back up and watch them for a minute. Don't even make a cast. Just kind of get their feeling and feel what they're doing, because sometimes you can sit there and catch 40 out of the same school as long as they don't blow out. What I mean by blowing out is take off, right? So, like say if I'm pre-fishing for tournaments, I'm gonna go hit every place that I possibly can think of to look for a school. 90% of schools are gonna be taken up by other tournament guys. These guys are so good now that it's very, very hard to find a place that you can have your own little batch of fish to go to. Normally you have 2 or 3 boats racing to the same school. But one thing I like to do is when you do see them fish, I like to back up and watch them and see if you'll tell if they're really happy school of fish. They'll be like belly rolling and they'll flash, or they'll get real tight and you'll see them rubbing each other and getting all kinds of crazy. But it's the ones that when you get close to them and they all bolt, them are gonna be the hardest ones you're gonna try and catch. The easiest way to have a shot at them is leapfrog them, get way around in front of them, and then just sit and wait until they come to you. Another thing is, like you were talking about gulp earlier, when you're fishing a school of fish like that, you're not gonna want to have baits that you're gonna be throwing and ripping past their face a lot. You have to learn how to read the fish when you get to that. That's like something high tech where it's easier if you back up, slow down, take like a gulp shrimp, put it on backwards, bomb it out, or let the school come across your bait. When they get close to it, or within 2-3 feet, or half the school goes over top of it. Normally, if you just let it sit and don't move it, say the first 40 fish will go over top of your bait and they ain't gonna eat it, especially here in Tampa Bay because they're so pressured. But once the bait gets in the middle of them, you'll pick one up. Then you don't even rip his face off, nothing, just kind of load up on it. You're gonna pull it a little bit and pull on him and let him get away from the school. Usually, if you can get that fish away from the school, you'll get multiple fish out of the same group.